All right, welcome everybody to another late night stream of mine, and it is UBOAT again. So today, over the day, I did a little bit of DayZ, a few hours of streaming DayZ, and now we are back to our good old friend UBOAT. So this is a simulation where you slip into the role of a Second World War German submarine commander. And this game gives us the opportunity to experience this in a complete, realistically feeling open world where the whole world is modeled on a wonderful map and you can just go wherever you like. Well, actually better go where your seniors like you to go, but still you are completely free. No scripted missions. Every situation evolves naturally from enemy convoy routes, enemy battle fleet routes, and your own and even other German submarines moving around. So you feel like being in a real world, and you also feel like being a real U-boat commander, because you don't just press keys to make a machine do what you like, but you are actually interacting with the crew, and the crew then is operating on the submarine. So a whole crew of the submarine is kind of simulated in the game. Well, to be honest, they have reduced the number of crewmates slightly so that it doesn't get too confusing. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 officers. To be fair, somebody like the radio experts would probably not be officers, but petty officers in real life. But yeah, still, they really make things work. So that I would say, finally, this is the best submarine simulation we ever got. And I have started to play through the whole war on the eve of the Second World War, which was in September 1939, before the raid of Poland. And you see now we are in late August 1943, which means we are almost 4 years into the war by now. And we have gone through a lot of adventures, a lot of missions, and I have put all of them on Twitch, and most of them since a few months also uploaded to YouTube. So welcome to you guys on YouTube as well, if you might watch it later. Yeah, I would love to do a parallel streaming to YouTube as well, but it doesn't work. At least my Streamlabs desktop somehow doesn't have the proper service to do that. So I stick to streaming to my good old friends on Twitch, and whoever likes to join the streams is of course free to switch to Twitch, and yeah, uploading it later to YouTube. Uncut. Well, sorry guys, but I really don't have the time to cut all that material, so I'll just use YouTube as kind of a documentation for anybody who would like to drop in and watch parts of my adventures later. And adventures it is. We have fulfilled a lot of missions from the very beginning. We started to do missions here in the North Sea, in the close Atlantic. After the raid on France, we moved to La Rochelle, went far into the Atlantic, finally got these supply submarines which allowed us to refuel in mid-Atlantic and do the missions on the other side of the Atlantic. Aruba and Drumbeat, Paukenschlag. And yeah, finally went back, transferred to the home port of Bergen, and it took us quite a while to do the Arctic convoys missions, but we finally managed those as well, sinking 250,000 tons under pretty harsh conditions, because late in the war the Allies get more and more experienced. The convoys have an enormous number of escorts, and for example, on the last attack on a convoy that I did sink 3 ships, a tanker and 2 C3, which was a tonnage of overall something like 30,000. And yeah, after I fired all the torpedoes, they detected me. I had to dive away, and partly there was more than 10 escorts cruising upon my head, and it took hours and hours until they gave up and left me alone. Yeah, and under these conditions we are fighting our submarine fight now. From Bergen we transferred back to the port of La Rochelle, and now we assigned to this mission here, the passage through the Strait of Gibraltar. And yeah, I guess you all probably remember this scene or these scenes in the movie Das Boot. And yeah, the passage through the Strait of Gibraltar takes a particular role in the movie. Pretty impressive. And now we are gonna go through that as well. The Eye of the Needle, actually. So heavily guarded. Just something like 6 miles apart, and we have to get through to the Mediterranean. That's our orders. So guys, but for now we are sailing through the beautiful Bay of Biscay, and yeah, passing by the Cap Finistere, or Finisterre, which is somewhere here, and then are going to the south. Time of the day, it's 6:30. Yeah, we were used to comfortable situation up during the Arctic convoys missions. We did it in summer, and so we had the midnight sun, so having daylight most of the time. So now the summer is drawing late. It's late August, and we are much further south, so the days are going to become shorter. Still, let's see, 6:30. The sun is still up a bit above the horizon. By the way, one of these beautiful things that are nicely and belovedly simulated in the game, how well the sun moves over the day, changes over the year. Also, when you move west and east, this is actually heated in a kind of time shift. Because your local clock on the ship is always aligned to Berlin or Greenwich, I'm not quite sure time. And that means when you cross the Atlantic towards Canada and the US, you have a considerable shift in sunrise and sunset. And that's really amazing that you have all that implemented in the game so dynamically. Sorry. So cheers, guys. I have a cup of coffee with me. My plan is to do it a little later and longer tonight. So let's do one nice prolonged U-boat stream tonight. First, let's give it a save. And a bit of time acceleration into the night. So here we are, 10 o'clock. And yeah, completely dark by now. Yeah, well, and not the faintest stretch of sunlight left on the horizon. Quite in the contrary to what we experienced the last months in the very north. By the way, let's check the stores briefly. We have 1, 2, 3 different types of food offered to the crew, which leaves them happy for now and at 100% of discipline, although we already have a fatigue level accumulated of -6. Yeah, we can render the fatigue level back to 0 if we would let the crew do a 2 or 3 weeks shore leave. But at the moment the fatigue of -6 is still relatively uncritical. I usually let it go to -12 or 15 before I do the shore leave. Yeah, the stores are full. Same for the 4 torpedo tubes with the storage and the stern torpedo tubes. Yeah, in the stern, like I used to do it, since the development was so far to give us T5 sound-seeking torpedoes, I always load them to the stern to get rid of men of war chasing us in case.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen. Betrachten Sie es als erledigt, Herr Kapitän.
Mr. Schulz or bosun? Yeah, I have 3 watch officers. Mr. Schulz, the bosun, Mr. Grade, the chief engineer, and Mr. Ahlers, the first mechanic. So when Mr. Ahlers or Mr. Grade are officers of the watch, they attend to the engines, and Mr. Schulz has no idea of the engines, and so he will attend to the map. Hey, navigator! Yeah, so I actually stopped at something like 9 o'clock and took a little break. And yeah, it was going all right. So I did get some supplies, I got warm, and yeah, so actually the run was going perfectly fine so far. And it was quite a long run. In total, I was doing something like 5 hours. And then took something like a 2 hours break to get back to U-boat. So how about you? Did you start a DayZ run when you came back home? By the way, now we have pretty rough weather, 23 knots of wind speed and a raging thunderstorm with the sun going up there, shedding very few daylight yet. Yeah, good choice, good choice. U-boat is also a good choice, always. So how was it going? Where in the war are you in your present campaign in U-boat? Yeah, well, okay. So it's also 2 years. And you're doing the Arctic campaign already that early? Interesting, yeah. For me, the campaign came much later. So I just finished the campaign a month ago, or a few weeks ago, in August 43. And now I am on my way for Gibraltar. The very first time. I never went so far into the game, into the war. I also never finished the Arctic convoys before. So I still love this consistent walkthrough. Yeah, we are going for the Mediterranean. Yeah, of course, that makes a difference. Yeah, the level of difficulty. But yeah, I think the game is good fun on just any level of difficulty, which is the most important thing for us. Sometime acceleration again.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung. Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
So it's 10 o'clock in the morning and the sun is high up already. Yeah, the sky is partly clouded. Yeah, of course. We are too far out to have eyes onto the coast. Yeah, let's give it a save now and then. You never know what happens. Of course, we could go to the port of Vigo or to the port of Lisbon, but yeah, why should we? We have sufficient fuel, so no real reason to enter the ports. And it's always a risk because somehow our presence might become known, and then yeah, people might kind of estimate where we are going.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
I think that was an important part back then, to try to keep it secret when submarines were leaving.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung. Navigation besetzen.
So maybe no band playing Musi then when submarines were leaving.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen. Jawohl, Herr Kohl.
2 o'clock at night,
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
and on we go. And there we
Schornsteinrauch.
Oh.
Peilung 45 Grad.
Oh,
Handelsschiff 50 Grad.
Okay, I have no eyes. I just have a bit of lag. Ah, Colin, hi. Yeah, okay, you might be right. You might be right. Wasn't aware of that. Good evening, by the way. How are you doing?
Torpedorohr 4 gewartet.
Maybe it's too bad visibility. Ah, there it is. Yeah, I was a bit late with stopping. Stopping the time acceleration. It's Swiss, isn't it? I know it's Spanish. Yeah. Yeah, we could check it, but that's not the point. Let's see that we get to our mission goal, Gibraltar, as soon as possible. Give it a save.
Navigation besetzen.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
And get time accelerated. Now we are on the longitude of the Portuguese capital.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
10 o'clock. Yeah, we are still far out. No eyes on the coast.
Torpedorohr 4 gewartet.
Oh, we didn't yet report that to the headquarters. Let's do it.
Funktelegramm gesendet. Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kanoi? Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen. Erledigt, Herr Kanoi.
Yeah, bad weather, that's good for our enterprise. And now let's do a little bit of dead reckoning and estimate the time of arrival. When we are going with 10 knots, And right now it's 6 o'clock in the evening. So this will be 10 hours. So that would be 4 o'clock in the morning. And another 10 hours would be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think we should slow down a bit so that we actually arrive there in the evening. In the heavy weather we are actually going slower. But what happens if we reduce our speed like that? Yeah, there is quite a swell right now. Average of 7 knots, 8 knots, I don't know. So that would be 10 hours. That would be another 10 hours. So 6 o'clock. Yeah, maybe we should be a little bit faster. Let's see, but let's keep on going with that speed for now. Six o'clock. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Signale geortet. Peilung 115 Grad.
Okay. $150. Now you have to be sneaky. Somewhere over there.
Herr Kapitän? Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung. Jawohl, ich kümmere.
Halbe Fahrt, voraus. Auf maximal sichere Tiefe gehen.
Dafür haben wir trainiert. Wir werden das gemeinsam durchstehen.
Okay, it's nighttime. That's good. So let's do a quick dive to make sure that they don't spot us on their radar. So what time is it? So that was 5 hours.
Auf E-Motor.
Yeah, which means that in average we were going 8 knots.
Auf Seerohrtiefe.
Yeah, now that we ordered an alarm dive, the boat is really going down. And it takes a little while to catch it and get it back to periscope depth. But Guys, you can step away from battle station.
40 Meter.
Mr. Arles, please attend to the depth steers and give them guys a bit of an advice for better depth keeping.
35 Meter.
So what I heard is that this completely, prevents overshooting.
Torpedorohr 1 gewartet.
Meter.
So we are going 6 knots.
Schnorchel ausfahren.
Yeah, let's go with the snorkel so we can use the diesel. And we have now minimized our radar cross section. So I don't think that they can detect the snorkel with the radar. They could just detect the snorkel visually with the smoke, particularly because of the smoke coming out from the diesel, but not at night. So we should be pretty safe like that. Let's see how fast we go. Diesel on. Nine knots, 10 knots, okay. We can go 10 knots like that. Maybe we should just continue. Now, what time is it? 11 o'clock. If we go 10 knots, in 10 hours we would be there, and 10 hours from now on would be 9 o'clock in the morning. Which is far too early, right? So let's reduce speed. Which lets us go 80 miles in 10 hours. So at 9 o'clock we would be there. And another 10 hours would bring us there. So that might be a good timing. Let's go like that. And so we stay under the surface now until we reach Gibraltar.
Torpedorohr 4 gewartet.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Sektor 1 gewartet.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen. Jawohl, Herr Cowboy.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
Betrachten Sie es als erledigt, Herr Kaloy.
Alarm. Flugzeug
Auf
in Sicht.
Gefechtsstation.
Heilung.
Anlauf
Direkt
beginnt.
voraus.
Oh, come on, let's just hope that they didn't spot our smoke.
Schnorchel einfahren. Ja.
Herr Kaloy, wir wurden entdeckt.
Wir wissen, wie es geht. Drehen wir den Spieß gegen diese Jäger um. Schneller, schneller! Auf E-Motoren wechseln. Auf maximale sichere Tiefe gehen. Aktuelle Tiefe 5 Meter. E-Motoren besetzen.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung. Jawohl, ich kümmere mich darum.
25 Meter. Folgen Sie mir.
Alles klar. Ich werde mich auf...
45 Meter. Meter.
Okay, they might have spotted us, but at the moment it doesn't look like they are about to drop. They are circling. They have been spotting us, but obviously they lost
70 Meter.
the contact.
Tauchen auf 50 Meter.
Okay, that's good. We did get away. Hey, weight loss. T minus 12. Yeah. The 17th of April minus 5. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
100 Meter.
Yeah, navigator. I think they did see the smoke. But it looks like that we were diving away fast enough so they wouldn't extrapolate our course. And they didn't even drop depth charges. So time of the day, 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean in-game. Yeah, well, this is relatively consistent. So I never much have that gut feeling that the computer AI knows more than it should know. Or less either. So to me this feels pretty consistent. And right now, well, yes, it is sunlight. The sun is up, and so they saw the smoke.
50
from our snorkel.
Torpedorohr
Pretty sure about that. Yeah, the interesting thing is that when you go with the diesel underwater, you can't go much faster. Yeah, and this is, I like it. That's realistic. So the limitation underwater is not the difference between the electric engine and the diesel, but that you have much more drag, I think.
Aktuelle Tiefe 55 Meter.
Yeah, we could still go for 1 hour down here. Let's do it.
Alarm beenden.
Yeah, very good. Step away from battle stations and relax. Nothing you can do.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung. Betrachten Sie es als erledigt, Herr.
50 Meter. Tauchen auf 30 Meter. 30 Meter.
Yeah, we can afford to be a little bit slower. Timing wise, we must check it out and arrange it that we arrive in Gibraltar only at dark, not too early, not too late, so that we have the whole dark period, the whole night to slip through Gibraltar. What about the depth? So the map says that it's pretty deep. It wouldn't have expected that. See, the Strait of Gibraltar is so deep. And if you remember the scene from the movie, they went straight south for the African coast. And yeah, you have to get pretty far south to finally hit the ground at 200 meters. Maybe we should also try to keep a little bit more south.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
Jawohl, Herr Kaloi.
Something like that, maybe.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen. Tauchen auf 15 Meter.
Yeah, let's get back to the surface carefully and check whether there is still planes circling or not.
Aktuelle Tiefe 25 Meter.
So somebody please care for improved depth keeping
Auf
and go for periscope depth, please.
15 Meter. Herr Kaloi, wir sind auf Seerohrtiefe. Boot für Rundblick eingesteuert.
So somebody please man the periscope.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
So when you tell the crewmates to support the captain, that means that the captain goes for the attack periscope and one crewmate goes for the observation periscope, and one is gonna support him.
Ja.
However he does that, probably this guy. Yeah, I actually I watched that part of the movie just before I started this stream. I watched it again. It's pretty deep in the center, yep. And I think, and that confirms, you confirm it, I think, with what you say. You have to get pretty close to the coast until you get a depth of, like in the movie, they are dropping to a depth below 200 meters because they have that depth, the depth tiers, the dive planes got stuck and they hit the ground a little bit deeper than 200 meters. And that means that they must have gotten pretty close to the African coast. Yeah. Yeah, right. Maybe already somewhere here. Ah, yeah, okay. Interesting. Ah, okay, so that's what you said, that in the west the strait is much more shallow. Also here, but here it here it already gets pretty deep, the further, and here at its narrowest it is much deeper than here where it's a little bit wider. Yeah, that's what you said, yeah. You mean 8, where it says 8 nautical miles or 18 nautical miles? I guess it's type, here. Mm. Yeah, nice, and you have that in the map here as well. This is where you mean it. Wow, that's amazing. Getting pretty shallow around there. Yep. So it looks like there is a bank stretching out far, far into the sea. And after that, it becomes deeper again. Yep. Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. Banco del Hoyo. Okay, yeah. Yeah, this is great. This is really great what they do about the world map. How detailed the world map is actually modeled.
Funkraum besetzen.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
Yeah, maybe I should stop sending the reports by now. Giving away my presence with the radio waves that I emit.
Funktelegramm gesendet. Herr Kapitän?
Ah ja, Faro Cabo de Trafalgar, yeah. Pretty famous. Ah, and there is Cadiz, yeah. There is Cadiz. And Huelva a little bit further north west along the coast. Yeah, before Cadiz became the big military port of Spain, Huelva was pretty big. I mean, back in the 16th century, Sevilla was still the main trading port, but sooner or later they found out that it was a bit uncomfortable for all the trade ships having to get up the Guadalquivir River all the way to Sevilla. And I think after not something like maybe in the 17th century, yes, I mean, isn't it like that Columbus even started in Huelva? At least his later missions? I think so. Yeah, and then, well, another 100 or 200 years later, Cadiz became the main port. And if I remember right, that Spanish main task force that was going for the Battle of Trafalgar was coming from Cadiz, right? The ice cream truck, yeah, okay. Yeah, so I understand that you have been visiting the port of Cadiz, right? So guys, I think we are gonna set up the... Shall we? Yeah, I think we should... It's worthwhile to rig the snorkel again.
Ja?
We can't go all that way on batteries. Okay, so that harbor is not that tourist friendly. I heard that Cadiz is a nice town, actually. Ah, okay, it's a bit outside, because I heard that the town itself is fine. Yeah, I know a guy who actually is just finishing his PhD in engineering at the University of Cadiz. Okay, guys, why are we still running on electric?
Aktuelle Tiefe 10 Meter.
Oh, we were a bit deep, weren't we? For the snorkel. So guys, try it once more, please.
Schnorchel ausfahren.
rig the snorkel. There it comes. And yeah, weight loss, we had that discussion once a while ago already, and I think we came to the conclusion that probably the ship would have to be on the surface to rig and to de-rig the snorkel, and couldn't just do it underway.
10 Meter.
Okay, so she thought you would be making fun of her? I don't know. Sounds a bit weird, because usually people are happy when you use their language. When you're a foreigner and try to use the local language, usually people are pretty fond of you if you do so. Yeah, maybe. But probably still not underway, I think. I mean, not while you're moving. There must be an enormous drag. Ah, okay, so she was proud of her English, and when you tried Spanish, she thought that... Yeah, that's sometimes the thing. So people might think that you not going in for English, that this might be between the lines, that the English is too bad. And, well, I met a lot of Spanish people, and there is still a lot of Spanish people that kind of, you have to get used to the way of speaking English. I mean, not that it's bad English, but yeah, the pronunciation is kind of special, and you have to get used to it. So sorry if there is any Spanish guys listening. No offense. Perfectly fine. So it still looks like we are going a bit too deep. And the snorkel is most of the time underwater. Okay, what is NO? Navigation officer? Or you have to help me with the abbreviations. Ah, okay, now I understand your remark up there with overshadowing and all, yeah. Yeah, I mean that your English is perfectly fine. I mean, in the truest sense of the word. So, is your Spanish similar to your English? Now going with the snorkel, let's us go something to 9 or 10 knots. And we can do some dead reckoning again. Okay, so the speed is pretty fluctuating actually. Nine o'clock, let's just go on and see where we end up. Maybe we have to reduce speed later so that we don't run into the strait at daylight.
Torpedorohr 3 gewartet.
Yeah, I mean, that is something like, I mean, you meet a lot of weird people and then it's up to you and me and us to try not to become like that. Yep.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
Yeah, if I remember back, I did have quite a few different bosses and most of them were pretty good. I just remember one boss that I had where I would say he was pretty much of an asshole. But I stayed in that company only less than a year. Hi, Yippee App. Nice to have you. How are you doing? Preparing for Easter. Yeah, well, and then I remember another boss I had where I would say he was, yeah, personally judging, he was an asshole, but he was very good at his job. I wouldn't have liked to be like him, but still, this is what you have to say. He was very good, like keeping up high production efficiency at our side and everything. And well, then I had a few other bosses which I really admire looking backwards and have been learning quite a bit from them. Well, one boss that I had, yeah, he was my direct senior just a very short time because he did promote me to being department leader and then reporting to him. But yeah, he was kicked out of the company by the owner and the general manager just something like 2 months after he did promote me to being head of a department. And so, yeah, I don't know. He was a bit of a weirdo. And so I was pretty much afraid if I could handle the change. But the guy who followed him, he was great. And he was maybe one of the best bosses that I ever had.
Torpedorohr 1 gewartet.
So I wouldn't complain. If I would complain, I would maybe complain about the policies amongst my colleagues. So if you are in the mid management in a mid-size company, you run into a lot of politics. And there is good guys who are really on the subject and want to push things forward, and there are other guys who are just about to push themselves forward. Yeah, but I think this is probably just the same in the Navy, right? Yeah, well, the point is, in an industries company, you still have to deliver something. So if in the end you don't deliver something, you can do as much smooth talk as you like, and it wouldn't help us. And I could imagine that maybe in the military it's a bit similar to like public service, where there are no clear aims. And well, if you lose some money, nobody cares because it's just the money of the taxpayer. And in a company, if you lose some money, everybody cares because it's reduced a bit. So maybe a little bit less talking shit in a industries company than in other organizations. That's my guess. But you still run into these type of guys who just try to talk themselves always into the best position. And it depends on the organization. As I said, I also had quite some good times in companies with great colleagues who were really just up to pushing things forward. They're just stupid side projects that have no purpose but look good, yeah. Now, let's do a bit of time acceleration again. It's 10 in the morning. So let's see what happens if I let Mr. Grade step away from advising the depth steers crew. Yeah, okay, see. Right away, we become a bit better visible and broach the surface again and again. So, yeah, amazing. That really makes a difference. But I think at the moment we can afford it. It was, yeah, it was ordered. Yep, that's the good thing in the military. If you really want something to happen, you just order it. And then it has to happen. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it's quite some time ago, and I only did the 1 year of military obligatory service, but yeah. $12.
Torpedorohr 3 gewartet.
So it would be nice if...
Geräusche. Kriegsschiffe. Kleine Gruppe. Teilung 340 Grad.
Okay, yeah. It would be nice if we would get some fog by now. Okay. Let's mark them on the map. Give it an X. Yeah, here you see again what enormous range the hydrophone actually gives us. Giving us an impression of what's going on there in the strait already now. By the way, number of watches going slowly up tonight. Great to have you in. Just a pleasure, so perfectly fine if you just lurk. Don't feel observed. Just love to have a few people watching, but of course, I also love to get some comments into the chat. Alright. I was expecting that maybe over the extended weekend of Easter that maybe a lot of people are on the way, not at their computers, but with families and things. But yeah, quite nice to have a few people in. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, that's the problem. And yeah, that's just the principle of public service. And this is then what you also get in the military. Like, there is no real key performance indicators. So if you run a project in industries, I mean, at least if it's a successful and serious company, you need some kind of measurable goals. And in public service, it's just like, yeah, you could just do anything, and everybody is reporting happy things to their seniors. The seniors want to be left alone, and they don't want to put up pressure and just have a quiet life, and so everybody is happy. Everybody lying themselves, telling lies to each other, and everybody being happy with it, and nobody actually questioning what comes out. And the taxpayer is there to pay for all that fun. Yeah, well, maybe I'm a bit too cynical about that right now, but this is how public service actually works, I think. Sorry, guys. I mean, there's for sure a few people in public service watching, maybe. So, pretty sure that you're good guys, and, well, I know what I'm talking about, because since a few years I'm also in public service. But it's a bit of a change coming from industries. And of course, I also know quite a few people who do a very good job also in public service. But, well, the main concept is not properly working, I think. That's for Germany, but I guess that in other countries it's kind of similar. Just that. Yeah, not nearly cynical enough. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad for the country, actually. So, yeah, but maybe I'm moving. Right now, I am sneakily moving onto the slippery ground of politics when I continue this thread. So maybe I should stop it. And I really don't want to piss off anybody of you who might be working in the public area. And yeah. Yeah, well, I think I was actually propagating that topic. So no reason for anybody to say sorry. Just want to excuse myself if I might have been, yeah, might have seemed disrespectful to anybody of you who is working in public service. So the whole country would not work if it weren't about you. Yeah, but, well, there is always things that could be done better or improve. Doesn't mean that people are doing bad things, but still, if you look at things, you always find some ways to improve. So this is now smart management talk, right? 2 o'clock.
Etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kalai?
So at the moment we have no hydrophone contact. That's what it looks like. Maybe I need to reduce speed a bit.
Schraubengeräusche, Kriegsschiffe, kleine Gruppe, Peilung 335 Grad.
The second contact that we got, let's reduce speed a bit.
Schraubengeräusche, Kriegsschiffe, kleine Gruppe, Peilung 330 Grad.
Yeah. There will be a lot of contacts from now on.
Schraubengeräusch, Kriegsschiff, Peilung 335 Grad.
One hour. 2 hours. So now it's 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock. 5 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Yeah, let's see that we are a little bit slower than that schedule. The whole strait is something like 40 40 miles. Yeah, okay.
Kurs setzen.
Schraubengeräusch. Kriegsschiff. Peilung 330 Grad.
Okay. $4 o'clock.
Schraubengeräusch. Kriegsschiff. Peilung 330 Grad. Jawohl.
Okay, not moving on at the moment.
Schraubengeräusch. Handelsschiff. Peilung 320 Grad.
Merchantman, okay. Yeah, still daylight. Yeah, we still will have something like 2 hours of daylight. Yeah, it might become risky now because planes might actually spot us.
Standseerohr besetzen.
And then there's also a contact there.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Mr. Arles, come on. You could just attend to improved depth keeping. We don't need to go flank speed at the moment.
Schraubengeräusche. Kriegsschiffe. Kleine Gruppe. Peilung 350 Grad. Schraubengeräusch. Kriegsschiff. Peilung 350 Grad.
How far away? 15 miles, so maybe.
Handelsschiff. Peilung 340 Grad.
Yeah, let's undeploy the snorkel.
Schraubengeräusche. Kriegsschiffe. Kleine Gruppe. Peilung 355 Grad.
Auf E-Motoren.
Yeah, now we are electric. I think we will stay electric until we are through or until we are sunk.
Schraubengeräusch.
How was the saying in Herman Melville's Moby Dick when they go out in the boats? A dead whale or a stove boat? So I'm gonna need a lot of coffee now, probably. Maybe I should have waited. Maybe I'm getting in too early. Having too much daylight still, but well,
Nebelfahrt voraus.
there might have been planes spotting us. I didn't have somebody at the periscope all the time, so there might have been planes spotting our smoke. reporting our position. Yeah, well, possible. So that's the question. Is it just coincidence that they are moving towards us? Or that it looks like they are on an interception course with us? Can't believe that they spotted us already. That's the only chance that an airplane has been around spotting our smoke and reporting that to this military task force. Hydrophone. Okay, they're moving away again, that's good. So maybe it's just their standard patrol, patrolling to and fro in the strait. And it would be great if they just have turned around to go back. By the way, we have been doing quite a bit of time acceleration. What's our status with food? Everything fine. Discipline to 97. Okay, discipline is going down. Why do we have neglected food preparation? There is nobody. Helmsman, Death Steers, okay. Six guys. Yeah, maybe let's do it the other way around. And do I really need the improved depth keeping at the moment? Maybe not. So now there should be somebody for the galley, yeah. Yeah, when there was no officer attending to the engines, additional guys of the watch crew had to attend to the engines, and so finally the watch crew was understaffed. 2 guys at the depth steer, 1 at the helm, 2 at the engines. And yeah, then there was nobody left for the galley. And well, let's try to keep the discipline up. Now the bilge. Yeah, let's turn on the pump for a little while. There is quite a swell going. And this is why depth keeping is so tricky at the moment. Look at that. It's only 13 knots of wind speed, but such a swell. Yeah, I don't know. We do have a bit of lag at the moment. Maybe it's because there is too many units being managed in the background. Whoa, whoa, whoa. This is why. Ha. We are that close to the coast already. Oh, wow, beautiful. How beautiful that is. Once in my life I actually went to Tanger. It's no kind of official port in the game, you can't go for it, but at least the town seems to be done graphically there. Yeah, nice. Huh.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
Herr Kaloy? Schraubengeräusche. Kleine Gruppe. Peilung
Torpedorohr 5
350 Grad.
gewartet.
Schraubengeräusche. Kleine Gruppe. Peilung 355 Grad.
Yeah, it might be good to go faster now.
Geräusch. Peilung 350 Grad.
Can we afford it? On that distance, they should not be able to detect us. I think.
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 345 Grad.
Hey, Colin. Yes, same for me, same for me. I just only now saw your remark, but when we were on that panoramic view and I was getting to this view, I only caught a glimpse of that big rock over there, and same. That was my same thought. I thought, oh shit, a big destroyer very close coming in from starboard astern. That was my very thought, yeah. Yes, there we have the smoke already. Okay. Having them like that. Well, it's 15 miles. 15 miles is very close. It's only like that these confined spaces of the strait here make these distances seem much further, but like if you remember, and if I remember an encounter on the open sea, I would already be ready for everything right now. So maybe I should not go flank speed. They might start to hit me.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kaloy?
Okay. One guy there moving away.
Herr Kapitän?
And one guy there moving away. Maybe I should get even closer to the coast. But if it's only 50 meters, that's also deadly. To get into a depth of 50 meters. Maybe like that. 150.
Bestätige.
But then it's really getting shallow.
Torpedorohr 3 gewartet.
Pass through the strait.
Erreicht. Ich hoffe, wir schaffen den Durchbruch. Schnaubengeräusch. Peilung 335 Grad.
Torpedorohr 1 gewartet. Torpedorohr 4 gewartet.
Yeah, the oxygen level will be a problem again.
30 Grad.
They are continuously moving away, but slowly, obviously. Time. So, guys, asking you, naval experts, what do you think about my theory? I think if you get close to escorts, it is smart to stay on periscope level, because what I think is that when you start to really dive and go really down to something like 50 meters or deeper, that then you are much easier to be detected for their hydrophones. So as long as you are very close to the surface, just being surfaced at periscope depth, I would guess that they might not get you easily into their hydrophones. Because it must be some kind of cone where their hydrophones work. Hey, Chainsaw, great to see that you're in. How are you doing? Yeah, well, what I say right now, that's not about the layers, about the thermal layers. It's about, like, if you imagine to have a destroyer on the surface, then his hydrophone, if you kind of imagine a kind of cross-sectional view, so there is the line which represents the sea level, the water. On top of that sits the destroyer, and then imagine his acoustic sensors, and they must have some kind of cone. Ah, great. So that sounds good. Yeah, so yeah, I'm also not sure, but to me it kind of feels logical. But yeah, maybe, I don't know. Still, I mean, from my infiltrations into convoys, this kind of confirms this, because when I was at periscope depth, they didn't spot me for a while, and when I did dive away, getting deeper, they started to spot me. Yeah, interesting about the mini vacation, because, well, most people around here would go for the mini vacation right now. Friday being a day off already, and Monday as well. So the mini vacation for most people here would be from Friday to Monday. So did you take the week off actually?
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
Jawohl, Herr Kaloy.
Yeah, the oxygen will be the problem. The oxygen will be the problem sooner or later. Yeah, that's right. The diving process might also make some noise, and that would actually might be the reason why they detect you when you start doing something. Yeah, that's right. Perfectly reasonable, that thought. Ah, fishing trip. All right, Monday to Friday. I don't do fishing, but I could imagine that it's very relaxing. I do a lot of outdoors holidays, and so that's about fishing, being in nature a lot. And do I remember right that you are from the US, Chainsaw? Yeah, yep. Yeah, I could imagine that. I mean, you have lots of wonderful countryside, and yeah, it's a pity that I never had the opportunity to do some hiking holidays, or like going around with a camper or something. Must be great in the US or in Canada, actually. I might have mentioned that an uncle of my wife actually lives in Canada since something like 40 or 50 years. And yeah, we never managed to visit him. And yeah, just a few weeks ago, we were seriously discussing whether we should maybe spend our next holidays there. But then we took a look at the prices for flights, and hey, it's just so expensive. For the flight and then renting a car and everything. So you could actually buy a used car in Germany for the money that you have to spend on such a holiday.
Herr Kaloy, wir befinden uns in flachen Gewässern.
Torpedorohr 5 gewartet. Torpedorohr 2 gewartet.
Washita, yeah, I remember, yeah. You told me about that. And I think I did actually look it up on Google Maps. Yep. I'm doing that once more. because I don't quite remember, to be honest. It was Arkansas, was it? No, no, no. Yes, yeah, is it? It's Arkansas, yeah. Yeah, nice. I'm sure that this is a beautiful place, yeah. There are a few pictures here. Wow, hey, come on. Ha. A few pictures on Google Maps, which are very impressive.
Torpedorohr 3 gewartet.
So if you go fishing, do you go by tent or camper, or do you have a lodge or something? By the way, let's actually plan. So it gets very shallow here. But if we go like that, we should be fine. Ah, yeah, okay. Some kind of cabins, yep. Yeah, I remember 3 years ago we spent our summer holiday in Sweden, and we went around there by tent. And 1 week we actually did rent such a cabin, which was a bit more comfortable than our tents, and also fairly affordable. That was pretty nice. At a lake, by the way. So, yeah. I mean, to experience this kind of countryside here, we really have to go to the north, to Scandinavia. There is maybe comparable beauty of nature to what you have there.
Herr Kaloy?
Okay, they are moving on away from us, which is kind of reassuring. Yeah, nice.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
Yeah, I like it when I hear it or read how you describe it.
Torpedorohr 1 gewartet.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kaloy?
Okay, they have reduced speed, or maybe they are turning around. And there is another guy there,
Torpedorohr
closing in. Yeah, things may become risky more and more. And 75% of air quality. Yeah, and that's so bad. When we want to get through sneakily, we won't be able to turn on ventilation to improve the air quality. It's getting so very shallow. I really don't want to go into waters where we just have 100. I don't want to put myself onto the seabed. I don't trust it, particularly since they have these the hedgehogs. I mean, as long as they just had the depth charts, you could put yourselves onto the seabed. And 2 or 3 times I actually experienced that. They dropped depth charts and then they left a trail on the seabed. And once even one of the depth charts was lying on my deck. And I was very nervous, but they just didn't go off. Because they had the wrong depth setting, obviously. So this is, if I would say it's a programming mistake. So if the ship, the destroyer, is going along up there and knows that the seabed is at 70 meters, they would never put the depth charts to explode at 80 meters. But this actually happens in the game and they have to work on that. But now that they have the hedgehogs with the contact explosion, I would never dare to put myself onto the seabed, because you just can't get away when they once fire a salvo of hedgehogs. They would just sink on you and explode as soon as they hit your hull. Yeah, amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, maybe you remember, I also have been telling about my grandfather, and that always gives me some thought. I mean, our grandfathers actually having fought on different sides. Well, if your grandfather was in the Pacific, in the Navy, he would for sure not have been fighting against my grandfather, who was first towards France and later towards Russia, or the Soviet Union then. Yeah, but still. Yeah, Chainsaw, that sounds great. That sounds so great. That's a wonderful offer. So I have finished my long cup of coffee.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Okay, closing in, closing in. Yeah, we are getting trouble with the air supply sooner or later. So these guys are coming in actually.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kanon?
So we have a depth of the seabed of 250 to 300 around here. Yeah, okay, would be curious on that. I'm gonna stream tomorrow night as well, and also the day after tomorrow, so would be curious to get that one. Okay, it's getting dark by now. It's getting dark. Time is 7:30, and we are close to the coast. Let's poke up the periscope. Wow, yeah, lots of steam clouds ahead. That's really gonna be tricky to avoid these guys. Sooner or later they are all gonna turn around on their patrol course. Yeah, okay, so the number of people in the chat is really going down. Maybe this is the time when the people from Europe go to bed.
Ja?
And yeah, okay, dinner time on your side, yeah.
Torpedorohr 5 gewartet. Torpedorohr 2 gewartet.
So it's 2 around here. So probably it's something like 8 o'clock or 8 at your side. That would be my guess. Or 7, something like that.
Torpedorohr 3 gewartet.
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 0 Grad.
The funny thing is, now that I think about it, I think I never had any guy from the US from California. I think California has a pretty high population, right? But, well, never had any people in the stream from California up to now.
Torpedorohr 1 gewartet.
Okay, okay. So, have you been born in California and then moved, or just have been there for a while? Yeah, okay. Yep, all right. Yeah, I don't know. I once went to California job-wise. Quite fascinating. Moving by car for something like 3 hours, only through densely populated areas. It was the complete contrast to when I went to Pennsylvania a few weeks before, also job-wise. And there, from the airport of Newark, we drove by car something like 4 hours north, and it was all through beautiful woodland. So what's the depth around here now? 300 to 400 meters, but it's getting pretty, come on. It's getting very shallow there, but if we go across this shallow step here, it's getting very deep again around here. So we can get very close to the coast around here and having deep waters. So I want to go like that. And just around here,
Wird erledigt, Herr
it's
Kaloi.
gonna be very shallow. Guys.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
Bestätige.
Wow, it's just 20 to 50 meters. So let's see that we slip across this sandbank. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I actually went to San Francisco airport and from there to San Jose. And yeah, in San Jose I had some kind of conference, yeah. So not much time for sightseeing or something, and yeah, I was just in this metropolis. So a stationary guy there. And two guys
Herr Kapitän?
approaching.
Herr Kaloi?
So I have to worry about these guys, actually. And they're getting close by now. 4 miles. 4 miles is so close. Well, let's give it a save for now. I think my strategy is not too bad, at least in theory.
Herr Kapitän?
So that's the most shallow point. So here we just have a depth of 50 meters. And when we are across that, from behind that, the sea becomes pretty deep again.
Alarm! Feindliche Kriegsschiffe in Sicht. Peilung 325 Grad. Feindliche Kriegsschiffe in Sicht. Peilung 300 Grad.
Stationen. Anlauf beginnt.
Ja?
Come on. We don't need the periscope at the moment. Let's just put it away.
Herr Kaloi?
And guys, you can step away from battle station for now. And
Ja,
Captain,
endlich ein
please
Mal.
turn in. What
Ja?
about our navigation precision at the moment? 100%. So Mr. Schulz, you can turn in as well.
Zeit.
Take a rest as long as you can.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Let's just keep fingers crossed that they haven't yet spotted us. I really can't believe that they did.
Wie
In
lauten
the
Ihre Befehle,
darkness.
Herr Kaloi?
They might hear us. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I just saw the Golden Gate Bridge from the airplane when we were coming in. So this is the most shallow point.
Herr Kaloy, wir befinden uns in flachen Gewässern.
Okay, two guys. This guy
Ja?
and that guy, but well, unclear. Might be that they are converging on us, and might be that it would be a good idea
Kleine Fahrt voraus.
to do the sneaky business right now.
Schleichfahrt.
So guys, be silent now. They're really getting close, 2 miles. They might already have heard us. Maybe I'm a bit too late to get silent. Just have to get over this stretch of shallow water. I don't want to get set up here in a depth of, wow, according to the map it's just 20 meters. So let's hope that we don't run into that we don't run aground here, but in the darkness we can't see anything. I could take an echo sounding, but I'm always a bit afraid that echo sounding would kind of give away our position. Although I know that there is passive and active echo sounding, but yeah. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I mean, the war is, for us, the war is kind of something from the history books, but it's even the more amazing if you really have that connection in your family. And yeah, like my grandfather, I was very close with him, so for all the years of my childhood, our grandfather always visited us each day and had dinner with us, had lunch with us. So I had a lot of conversation with him, and yeah, now and then, it was pretty seldom, but now and then he actually was telling some stories out of the war. And yeah, stories. He wasn't a storyteller, but now and then he did. Okay, there is Ed about to start, so sorry guys that I have to molest you with the ads, but I just can't turn it off completely.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Well, I don't know. Might be that they are closing in for us now. So what kind of ship was it that he was on? That PC 1135? Yeah, I mean, that's amazing if you can read something in the history books about, yeah, events where your grandfather was actually part of. A patrol craft, yeah, okay, that's PC. Yeah. Is it something like a corvette, how they call it here in the game? Or maybe even smaller, I don't know, but... Yeah. Yeah, let's track their path with the hydrophone. And stay silent. Okay, now it's getting deeper water again. Where are we? 59, below 60% of air quality. I really wonder if we can do it. But yeah, look at it. It's not that much to go anymore. And even though we are passing by the coast here very close, it's very deep around here. And gets a bit more shallow around here. Yeah, but that's the next problem to solve. Are they turning around? Nearby contacts.
Tauchen auf 10 Meter. Aktuelle Tiefe 5 Meter.
They are moving on. They might have seen something, spotted something. At the moment it looks like their course seems to be converging towards one of our old positions. So my hope is that they might have spotted something, but didn't keep our contact. Or it's just their ordinary patrol schedule. Yeah, it's always a bit of guesswork with the hydrophone contacts. But at the moment, it doesn't look like they're chasing us. Yeah, my grandfather was infantry in the war. Yeah, he was a petty officer. I think, yeah, you don't call it petty officer with the infantry. You only call it petty officer with the navy, I think. But I'm missing the term. So he was kind of a sergeant. Yeah, he was after school. He was doing some kind of apprenticeship as a clerk, I think, in a sales shop, whatever, or a grocer or something. And yeah, he lost the job in the depression back then. And well, he never said anything about that, but I think that was something from what he said. So he finished his apprenticeship and he didn't get the job there finally, and so he signed with the army a few years before the war started. And by the way, by the time the war started, he was already a sergeant. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think he was kind of a logistics guy, and when the war started, yeah, he was actually in a heavy machine gun troop. So that was what he told me, that until just before the war, they had these kind of water cooled machine guns, and like maybe you know them from the movies of the aerial fights from the First World War. These kind of machine guns with this cooling pipe around it. I don't remember the name, but that was what he said. So they always needed some water around, and with a pump, they did pump the water around the muzzle. And yeah, he told me that they actually had the exhaust buried somewhere in the ground so that there was no steam coming out of it, giving away the position, giving away their position. And they were mechanized by horses, actually, so they had horse carriages. And that was what he was saying, that when they were on training back then, that it was kind of a good fun. So that they had a horse carriage with 2 or 4 horses, and they were going cross country with the gun crew and the machine gun on the back, and going full speed, and the new recruits actually falling off the carriage left and right. And it was only just briefly before the start of the war that they got that new machine gun, which was getting so infamous without the cooling. Yeah, I just ignore the bots actually. So when I was with the army, actually, it was like that. Each, how would you call it? Each group, a group consisting of something like 15 riflemen, 10 or 15 riflemen, and one of them had this machine gun. And even now, and at least back in the days when I did my military service, we still had that model, which was more or less the same from World War II, I think. So when I was doing my military service, the strategy was that you had kind of rifle teams with assault rifles and one guy having a this machine gun. Platoon, squad. Yeah, yep. And back then, my grandfather was actually in a dedicated heavy machine gun company. Yeah, and that was how he went into the war. I always have to think about that. Here, I mean, when you start a campaign in U-boat, you really start in September 39 at the eve of the raid on Poland. And yeah, I remember him telling me how it was like when in the evening, they had on their schedule for the next day, they had something like 2,000 kilometers of training march. And that was actually the announcement that in the next morning they got moving to Poland. Yeah, okay, all right. So, yeah, well, I think it was not a march. I think they were not walking all the 2,000, but actually, my grandfather was on a horse, actually. So, as an officer, or like as a sergeant, he was actually riding a horse all the war. Oh, nice. Nice. I'm very curious. You have to send me a picture.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Okay, there they are. At the moment, it looks like we are slipping through. But very close. The distance is just a bit more than 1 mile. What about the other guys? Air quality 57. Shall we do a bit of time acceleration? Just carefully. Propellers detected, of course. Plenty of propellers. Okay, I don't know. This guy may be already turning around or getting slow. Help me, Operation Overlord. What was which one? Was it the final invasion? It was. It was that landing operation in Normandy, wasn't that? Operation Overlord? Yeah, yeah. So what were they doing, the Royal Signals? Were they kind of coordinating things with, yeah, radio and whatever they used back then? Maybe they were still going with flags and things. But what I heard is that visibility was pretty bad these days. That's at least what I heard, that radio comps, yeah, okay, that they had pretty bad visibility, so that the Allies actually could not bring their guns of the big ships, of the big men of war to bear, which was a big problem for the guys at the beaches. Wow, how long can we do that? Going so slow. We are gonna run out of oxygen. These guys seems like they have not recognized us. Okay, now we lost contact of the other guy, however. So maybe it was good for your health if you got delayed. So those guys who didn't get delayed were probably the ones. Yeah, must have been terrible. So, actually, thanks a lot to your uncle and your grandfather and generally your ancestors for freeing Europe. That was a big thing that the Allies did back then. Yeah, much thanks and much respect for that. Okay. One ship going around there. Maybe I should put it, give it a mark. So it's 9 o'clock in the evening by now, in game. And we are almost down to 50%. Yeah, Colin, that's so, unbelievable. Lots of things that you can't imagine nowadays, but well, I just hope that we don't have to get used to these things in the future. Sometimes it looks like we are gonna need to. Yeah, I mean, radio communication must have been kind of an art back then. And it was never so straightforward like you have it today, like you have your mobile phones. We can just reach anybody. I just remember when I was with the German military. My job actually was to guard a German airport, and I remember that we went onto one of these trucks regularly and did some patrol around the fence, all around the airport. And in the beginning, we had this piece of equipment, a radio, like a backpack that a soldier could carry, but in the truck we just took it in. But just when we were something like 500 meters away from the watch barracks, we just didn't have any connection anymore. So, I don't know, maybe it was just shitty equipment. But, yeah, even just a hill in between two units was kind of interfering. Yeah, well, of course, at sea you wouldn't have hills in between, but still. Up to Cherbourg, yep. So where is the next shallow part? It's getting pretty shallow there. After that point, gets deeper again. And previously, yeah, from here on. So we have to slip across these shallows, and then we are in the Mediterranean. 49% of oxygen. What about the water in the bilge, by the way? Yeah, 80 liters. It's accumulating through sneaky leaks like the gaskets of the drive shaft. Yeah, that's about, yeah, you had to gain height. Yeah, and that was the problem that we had back then. Yep. For radio communication, you don't really need the line of sight, but still, there may not be too much in the way. Yeah, yep. Yeah, I mean, if you look back, so my next remark might sound a bit cynical, but of course, it was much better to kind of have some impact. So it was dangerous, but it had impact, and a lot of comrades back then, they were just getting fodder, just getting fed to the enemy guns. Yeah, there are a few impressive movies about these times, but sometimes it's hard for me to bear to watch them. It's just like, do you know that feeling? I mean, in Germany we have, on every cemetery, there is this part of the cemetery about the fallen in the wars, Second World War, First World War. And I just can't bear it. I just can't bear just going past these. Usually you have these kind of hundreds of names engraved into stones and lots of crosses on the green grass. And yeah, I just can't step past these places without being deeply moved. To tears, actually, to be honest. So it's 9:30 by now. They're just moving around somewhere there. For a little while I was really worried that they might have picked up my position somehow. Yep, yep. Yeah, and that was the Second World War, and there was also the First World War. Yeah, so did you guys ever read Erich Maria Remarque about the First World War? I think if you read that book, everything is said about war. No further comments necessary. Read the book and yeah, everything's said. How is it translated? Nothing new at the Western Front? Something like that. Yes, yeah, that's right, Colin. And there, in the World War One, there was this kind of, yeah, they had dug in and were fighting meaninglessly over 2 years in these dug-in positions in France and Belgium. And that was such a completely pointless sacrifice of human lives. And yeah, this is something that really is well described in Remarks, Nothing New at the Western Front. All Quiet on the Western Front. Yeah, okay, that's the translation, yeah. Im Westen nichts Neues. It's in German, yep. Yeah, that's maybe one of the books that left the most impression on me of just any book that I did read. Yeah. And what is it about? It's always about some madman who want to gain personal power. At the moment it looks quite good. Except for the air quality. 10 o'clock. Yeah, the battery capacity is no issue. It's always the air quality. Discipline is also fine. Yeah, on the German side there is two famous novels about the First World War. The one is All Quiet on the Western Front, Im Westen nichts Neues. And the other one is Stahlgewitter from Ernst Jünger is the name. I've also read that book, but I just didn't like it. Like Remark, Maria Remark here actually tried to show war, how it was, and Ernst Jünger, he was kind of still making, describing it technically and leaving space for heroes and things. Of course, this reads kind of nicer, but yeah, if you compare it. So this is the two guys, Remark on the one side and Jünger on the other side. The one guy making war technical and leaving space for heroes, and the other one just, showing that it's kind of meaningless sacrifice of life. Yeah, you're right, Collie. That's a good idea. I think at the moment I'm pretty far away from just any contact. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Good point. And yep. Yeah, I would. I would like to see that. Yeah, so if you would just put a JPEG picture or something like that into the chat, that would be fine. Yeah, let's give it a save. I just have to make sure that I don't turn on the electric engines. That's actually the point.
Schnorchel ausfahren.
Yeah, please. I want to have the electric engines. Please make sure that nobody's turning on the diesel. Just getting fresh air snorkel. Mast is raised. All right. Is it? It's completely dark. Hey, come on. What weather do we have? It's clear sky and still nothing to be seen. Yeah, no moon actually. Completely dark without any moonlight.
Auf Seerohrtiefe.
Yeah, let's go for periscope depth.
Wir sind auf Seerohrtiefe. Boot für Rundblick eingesteuert.
Okay, alright, now we get the air quality improved. Just slowly, but it's 39. Yeah, good point. Very good idea, Colin. So I think at the moment it should be uncritical. Also, the diesel would be uncritical in terms of smoke, of course, at night, but the sound of the diesel would be propagating and giving away our position. And our presence, actually. Yeah, okay, air quality is improving. Very good. Sorry, guys. I'm still kind of undecisive whether I am getting a cold or not.
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 210 Grad.
So guys, it's 3:15. I think I'm gonna continue a bit. I can afford to sleep long tomorrow, so let's carry on. And I'm curious whether that late in the night we might still gather a few viewers from the US. Alright, well, I'm sure you can get it. You will. So what I understand is that you're struggling with getting the picture data onto the computer. I think you're not struggling with like a swing that little guy, right?
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 210 Grad.
44, yeah. That was such a good idea. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't need to be JPEG, just any common picture format.
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 220 Grad.
$45.
Schraubengeräusche. Kleine Gruppe. Peilung 195 Grad.
Maybe we are getting away with it. Wow, no other contact at the moment.
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 195 Grad.
Yeah, perfectly fine. That's well astern.
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 195 Grad.
Okay, we are back to 91%, so
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen. Jawohl, ich kümmere mich.
nah, please.
Großraum besetzen.
So somebody
Schnorchel einfahren.
put in decommission the snorkel. Yeah, okay. So send the link. Yep. That's alright. Perfectly fine. Yeah, perfectly fine. Just put the link into the chat. I think that's how we did it before, right?
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 15 Grad. Ja. Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 195 Grad. Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 220 Grad.
Now we are getting into that very shallow region.
Peilung 215 Grad.
100 to 150 meters around here. It would be pretty bold if we were going for the port of Gibraltar now and sinking ships there. So let's mark the contacts on the map now, just to make sure that they are not following us, or to recognize if they are following us. There is one guy. Oops, sorry. One more guy there. So what was his job, being escape officer?
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 195 Grad.
Yeah, that does look relatively uncritical. So now it's maximum shallow, or may I better say minimum shallow. Okay, so planning escapes of military guys or high officials who want to quit with the regime, or planning the escapes of Jewish people, something like that. It's great. Oh, all right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Don't know much about that. If you say that, I remember that movie. I only know the German title, which is Gesprengte Ketten. Pretty famous movie about a group of prisoners of war in a camp who do the escape. I guess you would know that movie. I just don't know what the original name actually in English was. Wasn't it with Charles Bronson and other famous actors? And now we are through. Now we have deep water, blue water under our keel. It's getting deeper and deeper by now. Very good. So I really wonder when the program would appreciate us having done the breakthrough. There is no point to go for.
Schraubengeräusche. Kleine Gruppe. Peilung 195 Grad.
Yeah, guys, where are they?
Kapitän,
Closing in. There is a guy. That guy is close. 2 miles. Yeah, 1 mile actually. Bit more than 1 mile.
ich erwarte Ihre Befehle. Korvette, 20 Grad.
That's close. To try to escape, yeah. Okay, radio transmission, that's a bit... Let's send one of my officers to the radio room. So, Mr. Strauss, would you?
Herr Kaloy, eingehendes Funktelegramm.
Ah, come on.
Funkraum besetzen.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen. Bestätige.
Receive Lavender.
Funkspruch erhalten.
Oh, what's that? There is a ship just ahead of us.
Herr Kaloy, feindliche Schiffe geben Alarm.
Wir wissen, wie es geht. Drehen wir den Spieß gegen diese Jäger um.
What do we have there? Whoa! What's that? Ships all around. Who are you guys? And where do they come from?
Auf maximale, sichere Tiefe gehen. Aktuelle Tiefe 5 Meter. Alarm! Auf Gefechtsstation.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
Jawohl, ich kümmere mich darum. 15 Meter.
How could that be? Where did they all come from and why did I not recognize them?
Herr Kaloy,
They're all over me.
35 Meter.
The depth is 150 to 200 meters around here.
50 Meter.
Okay, so let me be AFK just for 1 minute.
Kleine Gruppe. Peilung 195 Grad.
Yeah, alright, that's nice. Yippee yap. That's nice.
70 Meter.
I like it. Yeah, I wonder where all these ships suddenly came from.
80 Meter.
Yeah, nearby contacts. Yeah,
90 Meter.
going down, which is good. Navigation precision is 100%.
100 Meter.
Yeah, they're firing flares up there. I really wonder where all those ships came from.
Meter.
So what does it mean? O flag for C?
Meter.
Yeah, that's uncritical. that sound. It's just them firing flare.
130 Meter.
Yeah, it should get deeper and deeper.
Aktuelle Tiefe 135 Meter.
Aktuelle Tiefe
Okay.
135 Meter.
I do have some echo. I don't know if you hear it as well. Okay, now it should be gone.
Meter.
Oh, no. You know what that was? That sound? That was hedgehogs being fired. So now it could become a bit rough. Yeah, propellers right above us. And depth charges.
Verstanden, Herr Kommandant.
So turning on the pump might be a good idea. Maybe I would also like to get a ping from the echo sounder. Okay.
Aktuelle Tiefe 150 Meter. Trockengeräusche direkt über uns.
Wow, there is a lot of dropping going on. Yeah, very close. Alright, somebody turn off the pump.
Wenzpumpe ausschalten.
We got the water out of the bilge.
Ja. Kleine Fahrt voraus.
Yeah, let's close the bulkheads and go for manual turning off the electric support of the dive planes. Okay, yeah, okay, that was his camp where he was imprisoned then. Yeah.
Kommandant, wir wurden von Essen
Kolditz, that sounds like it's in Eastern Germany.
Kurs setzen. Tauchen auf. 200 Meter.
Yeah, we have entered the Mediterranean by now. Let's just see when we get this mission to be called a success. So where shall we go now, finally? La Spezia, probably. But we don't have the orders yet.
155 Meter.
Kommandant, wir wurden von Estig geortet. Meter.
Yeah, the boat is gonna take that. In Lower Saxony, okay, yep, okay. Zwickau, yep.
165 Meter.
Yep. But is Lower Saxony?
170
Is
Meter.
Zwickau in Lower Saxony? That surprises me a bit. I would have thought Zwickau to be further east.
175 Meter.
Ah, okay, no, it's Saxony. It's not Lower Saxony, but Saxony. Yeah, alright. That makes sense. Close to Chemnitz, south of Leipzig. Yep. Yeah, Lower Saxony. Yep. Just Saxony, yeah.
Aktuelle Tiefe 185 Meter.
Hey, come on. That was a great idea, Colin. your suggestion to put up the snorkel and staying on electric, I think that saved the mission. We would be out of air by now if we wouldn't have done that. Yeah, the creaking of the hull under the pressure of 200 meters of water.
Meter. Kommandant, feindliche Schiffe geben Alarm.
And they are still pinging us.
Meter.
Kommandant, wir wurden verortet.
Yeah, but it can't be helped.
Oh. Feindliche Schiffe geben Alarm.
Kurs setzen.
So they're firing hedgehogs again. Okay, and that was this guy, Mr. Raid. Yep.
Kleine Fahrt voraus.
Yeah, sorry guys, I had to get a bit of a late night snack. So I think you hear the crisp noises. Yeah, okay, he escaped and then went to Switzerland. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's getting late. So I wanted to do a pretty late night stream for... No, it's 3.5 hours. It's almost 4 o'clock around here. And I think it's pretty reasonable to turn in. So guys, it was a pleasure to have you. Thanks Colin for the wonderful discussion. Thanks Yippee for that nice work that you pictured. And weight loss if you are still there. Chainsaw. More hedgehogs. So have a good night guys. Don't know if you're still there. If you are, it was a pleasure to have you. And looking forward to see you again. Ah, you're still there, Chainsaw. Alright. So let's just wait. And make sure that we don't get destroyed by these hedgehogs that were just being fired. And then I'm gonna quit. And get to bed. Yeah, so guys, I wish you a happy Easter. And maybe see you tomorrow night.